Hi, my name is Becky Oakes, and I'm a Senior Program Manager with the Windows Home and Small Business Server team at Microsoft, and I'm here today to talk to you about Windows Server 2008 R2 Foundation. Foundation Server is a new product that we're offering from Microsoft, and it's a great opportunity for you to be able to get a first server into the small business space. Basically, Foundation Server is the same experience as Standard Edition, so it's something that you're already familiar with. However, it's been customized and tailored to the small business space. It's a great opportunity for you as a VAR or a value-added provider to be able to add more customers, get to the customers with a peer-to-peer network, and move them into that first real server environment. Foundation Server provides centralized file sharing and printer management. It also gives them that secured shared access to key business applications. Typically, small businesses have an accounting software program that they need to be able to restrict the access to only specific users. So it's a great option for being able to add in Foundation Server and meet those business needs. Foundation Server is one of the key things about it is that it's a cost-effective way to get a server into the small business space. And the key thing is that Foundation Server is a business class entry-level first server. So it's got the ECC memory and the server class hard drives that makes it a more reliable piece of hardware to go into that small business space. But some of the differences about, well, what is the difference between getting Foundation Server and Standard Server? One of the things is around the hardware. Because Foundation Server is targeted at the smaller business space, it doesn't need as much as for running the typical Standard Server scenario. So for example, the processor is going to be limited with only one socket, because typically in a small business space, they really don't need in that smaller end to have more than one socket. The RAM is limited to 8 gigs of RAM, because typically in that small business space, running in the smaller entry class of a server, that's adequate to be able to meet that business's needs. The other thing is that typically in that smaller end of the space is that they're only going to have a fewer number of users in that server. So Foundation Server is limited at 15 users, and additionally there's some limits around the network connections. For example, how the routing and remote access and IIS connections are configured are tailored and specific to that small business space. Another difference with Foundation Server and Standard Server is how the Active Directory is configured. Now, with Foundation Server, you don't have to install a domain controller and configure the Active Directory. Instead, you could just use it as a member server and just join it to the network if you want to use it in a workgroup scenario. But if you really want to have that single user sign-on and being able to add the domain configuration, you can create that first domain controller with Foundation and have it at the root of the forest. It doesn't support trust because, again, it's tailored to the small business space, and that's really not a need in that small business space. When you actually are using your Foundation Server, it's going to be the same set of server management tools that you're always familiar with Standard Edition already. So when you install that box and boot it up, you're going to do some initial configuration tasks. So you're going to pull up the initial configuration tasks list, and you're going to go through those tasks like you always would with Standard Server. You're going to go in and set the time, you're going to go in and configure your roles and your features, and you're just going to follow the task list for what is it that the business needs you need to solve for that small business customer. For example, maybe you're going to go in and configure file and print for that small business customer's need. The other thing is that you're going to be looking at, do they need a backup? Maybe you're going to configure the inbox backup for them. So you're going to use those same tools that you always do with Standard Edition. For example, open up Server Manager and be able to configure roles and features. So when you start out with Foundation Server, you're typically going to see that in the small business space, there's an opportunity with existing peer-to-peer networks that you want to bring into that first server environment. And when you go into those spaces, sometimes you're going to see some desktops that aren't quite ready for being able to participate in a domain. So maybe bring in that Foundation Server first as a work group, and then work on bringing those desktops up to a Windows 7 professional environment, and be able to then, if you want to over time, create a domain and be able to provide some added value and efficiency of having a domain controller in that network. When you install Foundation Server, it's going to be the same experience as you have done with Standard Server. But the first thing you're going to have to do is go and purchase it from your OEM as an OEM only product. So go visit hp.com or your distributor and purchase your server with Foundation. You can purchase it pre-installed, or maybe you're going to get it as a reseller option kit and actually just install it from the DVD. Either way, you're just going to configure some basic questions as you install the box, and then go in and complete the initial configuration to be able to meet the needs of that small business. You're going to add some basic roles, configure some basic features using the standard wizards that you're familiar with from Standard Server. So you just go into Server Manager, use that to be able to manage that server over time and get that box up and running. With Foundation Server, it's a great opportunity for you to get that first server up and running in a small business within about a half a day. So we encourage you to go check out Foundation Server and then tune it back again for another session of coffee coaching.